Hey everybody, and welcome to the second Fangirl Live. I am Jessica Dwyer, and I am here to go over the Week in Geek for this week, as well as Alien Covenant and my reaction to that. And just a shout out to Amanda Payton, who had said that, where's the action figures? As you can see, right there. The action figures are back on display for a little bit right here, and you can kind of see my library right there. So before we get into the Covenant reaction, I am going to go over our Week in Geek, and there's quite a bit of TV news this week. There was Gotham, Lucifer, and a major Blacklist event happened on that show. The other big news this week, of course, that just happened today, was the fact that we heard that Tom Hardy is now going to be playing Venom in the Venom film, which is going to be a release next year, which is pretty damn quick. That's pretty awesome news, and I love Tom Hardy, and I am all for this. I am all for him being Venom. He is awesome, and the fact that they have the guy that directed Zombieland in final talks to be the director for that means that it's going to have some really, really, really cool, probably some dark comedy in it. I think Hardy can deliver on that really well. Also, feel free, if you are coming into this, to ask any questions that you've got for me, any comments that you have, just let me know, and I'll do my best to answer questions. So, Gotham. Gotham happened. It's kind of funny watching this show because you have, hey Brandon, so it's kind of funny, you have James Gordon in this show, who now, for some reason, when he's in a really intense scene, has to go really dark with his voice and very gravelly, just like Batman. And it's really strange to see Gordon doing that. I don't know, that's kind of a nod to Christian Bale in the Batman voice, but it's very strange. I also think it's kind of funny how everyone seems to forget that Poison Ivy, who was being showcased as this like girly, hey Chris, who's being showcased as this voluptuous redhead who, that's Poison Ivy. But this version, does everybody remember the fact that she's 11, like an 11-year-old girl who suddenly got aged up and somehow now has this like, it just creeps me out to think about it, and she's like using guys and knows how to play the game and all this crap. It's just very weird. That's still going on. Last episode before this week's, we saw Selena Kyle get pushed out of a window, and everybody thought that it would be, at least to me, I thought, oh wow, we're getting a nod to Batman Returns. That's cool, but no, she just is laying there and looks pretty dead. But of course, much like G.I. Joe the movie, you can have a grievous bodily harm done to you and only be in a coma. Yeah. So, somehow Poison Ivy, who's an 11-year-old girl, keep that in mind, she's not some botanist, scientist type who had this happen to her, brings her plants in with her into the hospital room, and somehow breathing in the plants can fuse your spine back together, and from a 3-story, 4-story fall, it looked pretty high, and bring you back. Very strange thing that you can do that with plants. So that happened. We find out that the Court of Owls is going to unleash the Tetch virus onto Gotham, and that's how they're going to cleanse it. We've got the Thane, Michael Chiklis is back, coming as the judge, and the thing that I've taken from this is you cannot kill the Penguin at all, and I don't know how many times. It's sort of like that whole thing in Once Upon a Time where you have memory loss. You can just keep shooting and killing the Penguin, and he's just going to keep coming back for some reason, and that's just how it is. Hello everyone. I have people joining. That's nice. So we are left at the end of this episode with Selena going to go kill the Bruce clone, and it's so funny. Gotham, it usually is Bruce Wayne that I'm bored with on this show because they kind of made him way too young, at least to me, but now that they've been on for a while, he's gotten more aged, and now we're kind of getting to the meat of his story. I'm really digging the Bruce Wayne stuff right now, as opposed to the rest of it, which is just kind of boring. It's kind of a flip for me on that. James Gordon never has been interesting to me, and the whole growly voice thing just makes me laugh. Lucifer this week was great because Tim Omenson was on it, and anything is improved with Tim Omenson. He played God. And he really was God, as it turns out. And in regards to he was possessed by God, it's kind of a weird thing. They're doing this whole you have to find the pieces of the blazing sword on Lucifer and to give him some plot, I guess, is one way to say it. And it was really interesting to see Tim Omenson play on this show. He's just fun, and watching him with Tom Ellis was really great. Those two together is fantastic. I'm kind of really bored with Lucifer's mother and that whole thing. I've been bored with it. I've had a problem with it. I just, you know, they've added these characters, and it just, you know, I don't know. They've been renewed for a third season. For another season of the show, but I don't know what they're going to do to make this interesting. Now they've done this thing where, for some reason, after having this heart-to-heart with his father, Lucifer decides that it was nothing that that God would actually say to him, and it just makes him angry, even though he knows that caused him to actually be possessed by God. It's really... They're really stretching to keep a conflict happening. And he's all red-eyed and growly. I don't know. I keep watching the show just because I enjoy the character of Lucifer in it. And they already jacked up the whole, you know, ensemble with adding people that they didn't really need. I call it the human targeting, which... You know, what's funny is that's playing. By the way, Human Target is playing on El Rey now, which is great, and you should check it out if you've never seen Human Target. Only one season of that show has been released on DVD, and I don't know if you can find it anywhere to like stream. I don't think Fox has it anywhere, but it's cool. El Rey is playing it. Tangent. So. Let's go back to the one really amazing show this week that I watched, which was The Blacklist. The Blacklist was fantastic this week. They did another double dose of Blacklist, so it was 2 hours. And we had the culmination of the Mr. Kaplan storyline. And it was really, really well done. I loved Mr. Kaplan. By the way, I just want to keep this out there if you're joining us or you're watching this right now. Spoilers happen. We're recapping, and it's going to be a recap and a reaction to Alien Covenant, so you will have spoilers on this. FYI, if you have not seen Alien Covenant or The Blacklist this week, close your ears. But The Blacklist was fantastic. They keep this, they give you just enough to keep you interested, and Mr. Kaplan was just a fantastic character. This arc was great on the show. If you aren't watching The Blacklist, you really, really should. It's a really awesome show. I love the little camp. Yeah, you know, like we have people like Dale from The Walking Dead showed up in one episode. You've got all these guest stars that show up that you're not expecting, that are fantastic in it, and people want to work on it because it's just such a great show, and everybody knows James Spader apparently, and it's just a really awesome, great mythos that they've created for it. Interesting characters, just really, and it's slick. It looks like a well-produced, it's a well-produced show. I'm going to take a drink because my throat's giving out on me. Snapple. So, anyway, The Blacklist kind of answered the question, is Red Reddington Liz's father? yes. They did it in such a way that they've kept it open for interpretation. One theory going around is that Red that is in the show is not actually Red Reddington, that he is a guy that took on that identity. The other thing that could be the case is the results of this DNA test may have been changed. So you don't really know. There's a weird conversation with Red and Dembe, where Dembe asks him, "You didn't deny it," when Liz asked him, and he says, "No, I did not deny it." So they've added that level, and then there's also now this suitcase full of bones, and that Mr. Kaplan, before she jumped to her death like a boss. Yeah, Mr. Kaplan. I would have watched the Mr. Kaplan show. There's a suitcase of bones, and no one knows whose bones it is. It's heavily hinted at that it's Elizabeth's mother, which could mean that Red killed her, or it could be the actual body of the real Red Reddington. Either way, it's bad, because for Red in the hat, this little guy right here, come say hi, Red. Red says hi. It could be... it's going to be bad either way, because either he killed her mother or he killed her father. So who knows? That's why the show's great, because it keeps the mystery going, but it gives you enough to keep you, fed on it. I like it. In the realm of TV, also we had a bunch of new series that we found out about this week that we got the trailers for. I posted a bunch on fangirlmag.com. Go check them out. You can watch them all, give you my thoughts on them. The one that I'm really excited about, though, is Star Trek Discovery. And, of course, it has friend of the show, friend of Fangirl Magazine, my buddy, love you, Doug Jones is in it as Lieutenant Saru, who is, because it's Doug, it has to have something slightly creepy going on, and that is that his alien race is, hey, Brandon, no smacking on James Spader. His race is designed, they were made to sense death. That's definitely something useful, but sense impending death, because Doug, you have to have that drama. We got to see Michelle Yeoh, we got to see Sonequa Martin Green, we got to see a lot of the show. We see that they're using the design for the Klingons that we got from Star Trek Into Darkness. It's really awesome for me, because I'm a classic Trek fan. I love classic Trek. I like the whole redoing of the mythos and everything that they've done with the new movies. I think it's a great way to keep the classic in there as well as make it fresh. But I'm really loving that we're getting so many classic characters in this show. And I completely forgot that Harry Mudd is going to be in it. And if anybody playing Harry Mudd, it's Rainn Wilson. Yes, Chris, Into Darkness was awesome and underrated. Rainn Wilson is Harry Mudd, who, if you don't know from classic Trek, is like basically the space pimp. He really is. He's in 9 episodes of the show, which is a lot. I mean, I think there's 13 their listing as having been produced, and he's in more than half of them. And then you have my favorite, and I'm so happy, James Frain is playing Sarek, who is Spock's father. Now, mind you, this is only 10 years before classic Trek, with Kirk and Spock going around on their ship, which means there's a very good chance that if they can get him, Zachary Quinto could show up as Spock in this. But I love James Frain, and I'm so happy that he's in this as Sarek, because that means he's not going to die. Sarek is still around in Into Darkness and in that universe, and he doesn't, he lives through Next Generation. So, James Frain ain't gonna die in something that I watch him in, and I'm very excited about that, because he dies in everything. He's giving Sean Bean run for his money in terms of who dies how many times in a film, TV show. It's kind of sad. So I'm very happy about Star Trek Discovery. If you go to Fangirl Mag, as I said, you can read up on all the new shows. We got quite a few of them up there, trailer-wise. And we also have some reporting on the Tom Hardy as Venom story that broke today, which I'm really excited about. So, Alien Covenant. I'm going to say it again, just so you know, that if you have not seen Alien Covenant and are going to and don't want to have spoilers, because to talk about this movie, I have to spoil parts of it because they're stupid. They're stupid. And it's the stupidest crew since the Prometheus crew. And I'm just so you know, I'm going to have spoilers here. Please, if you don't want to be spoiled for Alien Covenant, go away. Okay, Brandon. I'm going to do it. So Alien Covenant manages to continue the pissing on the alien mythos that started in Prometheus. It does so in a glorious fashion of idiocy, and there's so many stupid what the fuck things that go on in this movie. I can't even do it justice. I'm going to try and keep this brief. I know because I've already been on for 15 minutes, but my husband and I discussed this at length because we both are huge Alien fans. Aliens. I even like Resurrection. We don't talk about the third one. But Covenant, so Damon Lindelof basically screwed up the entire alien mythos, and he did so knowingly. He did it on purpose. He even was on a show with Kevin Smith and said, I did the whole thing of jacking up where the space jockey was and putting the alien in there. I did it to just F with the fans. Screw you, Damon Lindelof. Screw you. Damon Lindelof likes to make things that have supposed mystery to them and never give you any kind of answer. Yeah, 3 was interesting. I'll give you that. But the thing that what he started with Prometheus, we were like, okay, you know, we want to see the whole reason we're here is we want to see the mythos happen. We want to see where they came from. We want to know the mystery here of what the aliens are and where they came from. Because if you've watched the first films, it's great because it's just you don't know. They seem to be these creatures that have existed for a long time and are just completely evil. Danny McBride was one of the better parts of the movie. And he can do drama. Who knew? He was great. Sadly, the movie, stupid. And I'll get to that. So, so let's go through my list. Alien Covenant takes over where Prometheus left off and does not move the story forward really at all. Yeah, rental. A rental. Even that. I was bored the first 20 minutes of this film. That's sad to say, but true. So it doesn't move the story forward at all. You want more to it, and you find out. You don't really find out anything new, and they've kind of what they've done with this is sort of like what Star Wars is trying to wash itself away of the alien, the prequels with the midichlorian thing. Remember the midichlorians? Prometheus is the midichlorian of Alien, if that makes any sense. what Damon Lindelof has done, you'd think that they were going to try, they kind of try to clean it up and make it better, but they don't. So they don't move the story forward at all. They just they keep the plot holes, and they just keep Lindelof's shit that he added, and they don't really try to the way they try to clean it up is just to shove a xenomorph in. And that's not spoiling anything, because they kind of tell you the entire movie in the trailer. They really do. And so that's kind of ridiculous. So the movie kind of just starts. You don't really have any time to get with these characters and care about them. That's one problem with it from the beginning. It just goes. It starts. And I played a game with my husband, like, after it was over. I'm like, I want you to name at least 3 characters from the crew. Can you name 3? Not including Walter the android. And it's one of those things you kind of really got to dig deep into your brain to remember the names, because it's so fast and they're so forgettable. They're kind of fodder. That's all they're there for, is for alien bait. You don't really care about them. I did not give one dick all about any of these characters, because I had no time to learn find out who they were. The only reason you know that they're a crew of couples is because of that prequel thing they did called The Last Supper that had James Franco in it. This goes to another problem I had, which is in the movie, as it begins, there's a catastrophic failure due to an event in space that disables the ship a little bit, and it messes with the solar sail that they have that powers it. That Walter, who is David 2.0 basically, also played by Fassbender, can't deflect it fast enough. There's they get hit by this stuff, and it causes this catastrophic failure, and they awaken the crew, but the captain, who is James Franco, for some reason, his pod, his sleep pod, he gets fried in. It suddenly bursts into flames. This is the first 5 minutes of the movie, and it erupts in flames, and they're trying to use these jaws of life to open up the pod, and they can't get to him, and he dies in this ball of flame in his pod. So James Franco is not in this movie at all, other than in a weird camera flashback thing, picture frame deal. And that's it. So you see this happen, and I'm trying to figure out, now my husband, yeah, basically, Chris, you're right. I'm trying to figure out what happened in this pod, and my husband and I both tried to figure out what happened in this pod to cause fire. And we couldn't figure out what would cause it to erupt in flame, because you would think there would be safety features that you wouldn't fry the person inside the pod. And it was such a ridiculous scene. We laughed in the theater, and we knew we were in trouble at that point. So we go from there to Billy Crudup's character is now in charge, because he is second in command, and Franco's dead. Franco's wife is now his second in command. Yeah, Damon Lindelof is to blame for all of this. So his second in command is the wife of James Franco, Daniels, I think is her name. And Billy Crudup and his crew, Tennessee is the name of Danny McBride's character, because of course it is, because Tallahassee was already taken. Anyway, so you have Crudup's character, who has this one brief moment, and it's such a random thing where he decides to rant about, I'm a man of faith, and that's why they didn't make me in command. They didn't put me in command because I'm a man of faith. And that's the last you hear about that. And I couldn't let that go. I kept thinking, why does this matter? Yeah, okay, yeah. There you go. Chris said Dallas. That's right. You had to have your guy, because. And by the way, I thought it was Sigourney Weaver who was the voice of Mother, which would have been nice. She sounds a lot like Sigourney Weaver. It's not Sigourney Weaver. Anyway, so he's doing this rant at his wife about the fact that he's a man of faith and that's why he didn't get put as captain. And then they completely, this doesn't play into it anymore at all. And it's sort of random and weird. One of the many random and weird things that made no sense. So they find this distress call. And it's coming from this planet, which they think could sustain life, and they could go, because this is a group of terraformers. They're a colonist ship, and they're on their way to this colony that they were going to put together on this planet 7 years out. After this whole debacle happens, Crudup's character is worried about going back. No one wants to go back in the pods after seeing, Franco get fried. So he finds this planet that with a distress signal coming from it and thinks, oh, we can go there. Okay, so there's so many issues with this that I can't. First of all, this is supposed to be a trained team of colonists. They're supposed to know what to do. They're supposed to know how to, to deal with these situations. They know what was going, they knew the risks going into this, all of this stuff. And for him to just decide, let's try this planet and see if we can live there instead of going, waiting for 7 years and going back into cryo sleep to go to the planet that we know is safe and is a good place that we've already tested and know all about. So they go down to the planet because they also want to check on this distress signal. They go down to the planet with absolutely no spacesuits on. They've done no sort of checking on, biological issues, anything like that. They could have sent the android down to check things, but they didn't. And they land down in the planet without realizing, oh shit, there's this massive storm going on that could cause an issue for us getting back to the ship. And we only have the one ship, for some reason, the only one transport ship on this massive colony vessel. They only have one shuttle. And they send it down there with no backup plan in place or anything like that. They go down, they don't have spacesuits on, they don't have helmets on, they don't have anything to keep them safe. Because if they did, the movie would have been over in 10 minutes. But the problem I have with this is that it's such a stupid decision and just mind-blowingly dumb that it distracts you from anything else. You can't get over that this group of people is that stupid. Now, after Prometheus, we know they're all idiots. We saw Prometheus and know that whole crew was stupid. And the guy, you have a geologist that didn't want to touch any rocks and got lost and made his spacesuit into a bong, for the love of God. You had a guy that, they're the first contact with alien life forms and this major discovery, and no one wants to deal with it, and everyone's freaked out, and you have idiots playing with weird snake creatures. Those guys were stupid. If possible, the Covenant crew is even dumber. They're going down there with no sort of respiratory. Yeah, this is true, Chris. They had cigarettes. Which I brought up the point. You don't know what kind of gases apparently are on this planet, or what's being released from these plants that are around you. You sure you want to light up a smoke? I don't know. That's just one of the many things. But they get down there. They have no sort of safety. They've done no checking, nothing. So of course, you know, they have to get the virus out there somehow. They have to get infected. So these spores that reminded me way too much of the smog monster in Lost, thank you, Lindelof, your taint is still here, infect the crew. There's 2 guys that get them. And somehow, the one gets in the guy's ear, then the other guys, they sort of get infected almost simultaneously, but there's a little bit of a delay. So you have the crew, and you have this I think she's like a botanist, or she's a doctor who is checking checking the water and checking, you know, for microbes and organisms and stuff like that. She's a sort of a biologist, and her guy that's with her is infected first. And so what does she do? You would think that a doctor who checks for microbes and biological issues and things like that would know better than to touch the guy who is obviously really fucking sick. Really sick. And she just touches him with, like, her gloveless hands. She's holding him. He pukes blood on her. There's just, that whole bit there was just so stupid. So stupid. So you have that whole thing going on. They leave one person back at the shuttle. They leave the shuttle unguarded. When they run into their issues up on the mountain, because it's a ways away, they land. This goes back to my point about not checking the planet at all for anything. Instead of scanning the planet really closely or looking for things on the planet, they land like a ton of miles away. Like it looks like a pretty good distance from where their signal is coming from, the distress signal is coming from. So they have to trek it. So of course, when all this stuff goes down at the shuttle with a dude that's infected, they have to like hoof it back carrying their infected dude. So this is just all poorly planned crap and stupidity. I keep coming back to the stupid part. So they get to the shuttle and it explodes because all this shit goes down, and you already saw this in the trailer where the guy's got the thing coming out of his back. Well, it's an alien, surprise. It's a little alien. It's not quite the xenomorph we all know and love. It's sort of fleshy looking. It's tiny. The other guy, he erupts as well, and so now you've got 2 running around. That comes into play later in my bitching. So shuttle blows up. There's this big storm going on that's planet-wide. That's a really huge storm, which means that you don't know if how are we going to get down to the planet. They're having trouble with their communications equipment. It's really ridiculous. So you would think that they would check for that kind of thing before you'd land on the planet, but no. So here comes David from the original movie, because this is the planet that he and Elizabeth Shaw ended up going to. David shows up in his Assassin's Creed finest with a hood and everything, and as the crew is getting attacked by these 2 new baby aliens that apparently are growing quickly, he takes them back, and you discover that somehow an android's hair can grow. Didn't know that was possible. He's got shaggy hair, long hair. How does that work? He's not supposed to be a biosynthetic. He's just a synthetic. So his hair's growing, which is odd. And he meets his new brother, Walter, who's the newer version of David. And so they go and they head to this big cathedral place, pyramid that David's held up in. You find out Elizabeth Shaw died, and you really get a really bad vibe from David because you already knew he was evil from the last movie. Everybody should not trust David, but they apparently do, and they're kind of stuck until they can figure out a way to get back to the ship, because stupid. And you have this one girl who's on the ship, on the with the crew, and after seeing the effects of the viral infection that's around on the planet, I find this one scene really funny because she's got these open wounds from when she's attacked by the little baby aliens, and decides to like dunk her arms into water and this creepy black dirty pyramid. It's just really strange to see this happen. That's the stupidity playing into it. And so that's happening, and she gets off by an alien. It's slowly they're getting rid of crew members, and it's just you knew better than to trust this creepy android who shouldn't be alive. Meanwhile, yeah, but at the same time, you knew what was going to happen from the trailer. That's why I'm saying the trailer basically shows you the movie. You don't need to sit through it. Any cool trailers before the movie? It was stuff that I knew would be there, nothing that I hadn't seen online already. They did have the Blade Runner trailer, but it was the short one, not the good one, which I found interesting. I thought that was weird. So they're on the planet, and David decides that he's going to, he actually comes out and tells Billy Crudup's character what he's been doing, and you find out basically that David made the aliens. Yeah, they just went with that. The aliens were made by an android because he had daddy issues. And that's it. You know, they took the mythos that could have been these creatures could have been ancient. You know, you kind of got that vibe that they've been around for a long time, but no, David made them. And in 10 years, now here's the weird part. In 10 years, he's on this planet, and you find out that when he landed there, Elizabeth trusted him for some stupid freaking reason. For whatever reason, Elizabeth Shaw put him back together, which made no sense. Instead of just keeping him ahead, which was working, we saw that at the end of Prometheus, she built him back. Knowing he's crazy, knowing he's evil, knowing what he did, Elizabeth Shaw put David back together again. And that was a stupid, stupid move. But Prometheus showed us that they were all stupid and that people can't zigzag. They can only run in straight lines. So he talks about how he loved Elizabeth Shaw. Whatever. But you find out she stupidly put him back together, and of course he uses her. Yeah, no doubt. I was calling it the sequel would be New Me in the Head, but that didn't work out. So you find out that David uses Elizabeth Shaw and her body to help create and mutate the viral pathogen that is the alien. And when he gets to the planet, he dumps all the black goo from the original film, from Prometheus, onto all of the engineers on the planet, killing them all. They all melt. They all like become blackened, and you see them all around in the outside of the temple or whatever you want to call that thing. And so that happens. So my thing was, here comes another big plot hole, is that we're told by David that he spent the last 10 years while he's been on this planet by himself, basically, because he's killed all the life, all the people that were there, all the engineers that were there. He killed them all. He's been trying to augment and mutate the virus into, you know, the alien into its its most perfect form or whatever. And for some reason, you know, daddy issues. And he wants to create life. They don't really come out and really say that. He's just weird and creepy. How is he doing that when there's no life on the planet? He's killed it all. Now, there's this weird moment, and you don't really find out why they make this big deal about there being wheat on the planet. There's a stupid line, trust me, I know wheat, from one of the crew members. And you never really find out why there's wheat on this planet, because David doesn't need to eat. Elizabeth Shaw was dead by the time they got there, or incapacitated, so she wasn't eating it. Are we to assume it was the engineers? But why? They don't really explain it. So he's basically killed everything on the planet. It was if Silence of the Lambs meets the Goonies. Yeah, that's a good point. We actually were making the Silence of the Lambs jokes. So we go back and see all this happen, and David's telling, basically doing his I'm the evil mastermind, and I'm going to tell you my evil scheme story. And so he's I don't know what he's using to do this with, and they don't really go and tell you how he did it. And he's basically killed this entire world, which is something else that you would think would have been noticed on scans if they'd actually checked the planet. So he tells Crudup this, and then then Crudup's just like letting him lead him around, and takes him into this room with the eggs, which we saw that in the trailer too, I think. And Crudup is the first man to get the face hugger in all of cinema. Well, not in all of cinema, but he's the first guy in history to get a face hugger to the face. Other than that engineer, but that was not really a face hugger. I don't know what the hell that was. Neither does the writers, because they didn't care enough to really explain anything. So Crudup gets his face hugger, and David's watching him to see what happens, because he doesn't know. And the alien comes out, and for whatever reason, we get the tried and true xenomorph. It took a human to do it. And for whatever reason, Billy Crudup causes the xenomorph to be the alien that we all know and love. Other than these weird, creepy ones that look all fleshy and things that we've been seeing in this movie. And they kind of like shoehorned into Prometheus at the end. So we go from there to this alien is running around, and he's the xenomorph alien. We know, so he's more quicker and like the inside of the port in Aliens. Brandon's asking if they could have shelled the planet like the inside the port in Aliens, and I don't know that they could do anything because they only had one stupid shuttle on the ship, so I don't know that they had any weapons. You would think if you were doing like a deep space flight like they're doing, that they would have some sort of weaponry on the ship in case they needed it, but this is just, I don't even know. We're thinking more than the screenwriter, I guess, did on this, or anybody. So David, the evil android, takes on Walter, the good android, that looks just like him. So you have double Fassbender, but it still couldn't fix this movie. And they're running because they... Tennessee, Danny McBride decides he's going to save the day and come down in this craft that's like it's not really built for this. It's more like a craft that they use to move cargo. And so he goes down to save them on this cargo ship thing. And there's like literally a 5-minute span here. Walter's trying to defend and save the day. At one point, Walter has his arm ripped off by an alien, and that's important to remember. So Walter and David are doing their battle royal, Kirk versus the Gorn thing, and while that's going on, the xenomorph is coming after people, and they have to get to the two survivors, or the two survivors left are trying to get to the shuttle. And by the way, this is also important. There's so many stupid things that happen. The one guy that gets to the shuttle had a face hugger on him. Now, what do we know about facehuggers? Facehuggers, once they've impregnated, die. That's it. They're laying over there like that, and that's a facehugger that's impregnated something. So this guy gets a facehugger, and they pull it off him. It's the first time that, you know, I've really seen this where a guy gets a facehugger and they pull it off, and it's still alive, and it's scuttling around, and they kill it. So they get the guy on the ship, and he's burned really badly, of course, because he's, you know, they shoot it, and it's got acid blood. And they get to the ship, and then all of a sudden, in this like crazy amount of time, here comes Walter. Walter's running, and he gets to the ship. Chest explosion. So Walter gets to the ship, and they fight the alien, and of course the alien's still on the ship, so they're fighting, and there's this tense moment, and somehow she survives being flopped around on a string, and wow, so much crazy. I swear to God, she goes underneath one of the Daniels is fighting this alien on the outside of the thing while she's tethered to the ship, and she's being flung around, and there's no way she could have lived through that, but you know, logic. So they get back to the ship, and so the guy, they put him in medical, and they put the stuff on his face. So everybody thinks it's all over, even though most of the crew's dead. They still have their 2,000 people, and Walter's back, and he's stapling his face up because he got hurt, and they got, you know, they left behind the evil android, and they got away from the planet. Well, you get this alert, and of course, somehow a facehugger impregnated the guy with the burned face and lived afterward, and did it in that short period of time. But unlike the other two guys who had viral infections and not a facehugger, but also unlike Billy Crudup, who apparently it was a really quick boom, his chest burster happened. This guy, it took a really long time for it to work, and the process of impregnation and bursting to happen. He's back on the ship, so of course now we have an alien on the ship that they have to stop. Alien on the ship quickly turns into Jason Voorhees in space by killing people who are having sex in a shower, which you saw in the trailer. That's not spoiling that at all. As I said, the trailer showed you everything that you would know from the film. So they get rid of the alien, they save the day, everybody's happy. It's Tennessee, somehow lives. The guy that you thought would die, because he's the enjoyable one, Danny McBride, lives. And that's surprising. Yeah, you see everything in the trailer. So Danny McBride lives, which I was surprised by. And so they decide that they're going to go back into cryosleep because they have 7 years to get to the planet that they were supposed to be going to. And they're going back into their little things, and so Daniels decides to ask Walter if he'll help her build her cabin like she was going to do with Franco, because they were married. And he looks at her funnily and doesn't know what she's talking about, and then she realizes, oh my God, it's not Walter, it's David, which they telegraphed miles back, and we knew, and was not really a surprise at all in any way, shape, or form. The surprise is that we're supposed to believe that in that minute and a half, if not less time, Walter and David were fighting. David somehow not only defeated Walter, cut off his own arm to replicate the fact that Walter had lost his arm, changed clothes with Walter, and got to the place that they were at, and got to the ship in that short of time. Even if he is a synthetic, there's no way in God's frickin' green earth that that could have worked and happened. Just couldn't have. But it did. So there you go. Evil wins. And so she's trapped in the thing, and she knows that he's going to infect everybody with the aliens. He's got 2,000 some odd colonists that he can do. To give that to. And then there's this really weird scene where he goes to the embryo chamber because they have embryos on the ship, and he regurgitates up these two face hugger embryo things and puts them in there. So by the way, he also had to have time to swallow those when he was cutting off his own arm to be a Walter clone. And that's the movie. That's the movie. That's what you get with Alien Covenant. And we've redubbed it Alien Convenient because of all of these strangely, weirdly convenient plot points that happened. Like the fact that this entire crew is so stupid. Is so stupid, yeah, no doubt. That they would go down to a planet like this without any kind of protective gear or anything like that to keep. They don't know what's down there. That's just common sense. So you know, there, I just don't know why. They took Prometheus, which was going to give, you know, the whole thing was we wanted to see the alien mythos and find out where they came from. Now, keep in mind that somehow, yeah, I hated it, Chris. I really did. And the thing that really annoys me with it is that, you know, there's still these plot holes that happen in Prometheus where you've got, how did they know what the creature was going to look like on that cave wall when it took David all that time to mutate it into the xenomorph, and somehow it looked just like what they had on the cave wall? What the hell was that about? It just bothers me that they could have, they turned it into this weird parable thing of trying to, you know, show mankind's, I don't know really what they're trying to show with it, other than man created the android created the alien. You know, they're trying to shoehorn some sort of, you know, mankind and faith and the creator mythos and all of that in there, and they instead they've created this mess. And we could have gotten some really cool story about this creature and how it first evolved. And this is turning into a bigger mess than the Alien versus Predator movies, which was pretty damn bad. You know, I don't know why they did this. And the worst thing that they could have done, and they did, was have Lindelof create this story and then not really try to fix it. It was laziness. It really was laziness that you know, I would have loved to have had a smart creator story. That's fine. But to get to the place they are in this movie, the stupidity that had to come into play ruins it. You know, there's no logic. There's no... these are supposed to be scientists. These are supposed to be trained people that know better, and you have to rely on humanity's idiocy to get this to happen. I hope we're not that stupid. I wouldn't be down there. I wouldn't have went down there. But it just, I don't know. It's sad because if you go back and watch Alien, and this is a point that my husband made, and it's true. With Alien and Aliens, the first two films, in the first movie, you had a crew that was made up of like miners. They're not trained so much in, you know, their specific training that they've had. They have a specific set of skills for what they're doing. They're not Liam Neeson, but they have their specific set of skills for what they do. And when they have to take on this creature and they have this first contact with this thing and it starts murdering them one by one, they don't know how to really deal with it, and that's why it takes out an entire crew of them until there's one left that figures out a way to get it. And that is why Alien happened. That makes sense. That makes sense. The second movie, you have Ripley come back, and you have her get a crew of frickin' badass Marines that take on this thing. She goes back with Marines. And of course there's more than one alien, and they get their asses handed to them for the most part, but they you know, she's like, let's just frickin' nuke the planet from orbit. Let's blow it up. Let's kill them all that way. That's going to make sure they're all dead. That's smart. That is smart. And so Brandon, I'm going to get to your point there because I was thinking the same thing, something very similar about this. So, and then the same with Alien 3, you know, you have these convicts that are there that are hardcore murderers and everything that are taking on this monster. And they make sense but here you have scientists and terraformers and a crew of trained people that make the biggest, stupidest, most idiotic decisions happen. Just bad writing. Bad writing. And you took a myth, you took a creature who is just an awesome thing that could have had such a really cool backstory to it. You know, just a really neat creation, and they have just screwed it up. It's just screwed up. Yeah, they tried to do like the whole drop from the ship, like they tried to rip off that whole scene, and it was just badly done. They tried so hard to do so many things like in the other films, and it just didn't come across well. So here's the thing that I found interesting, and this was the thing that I was going to point out, Brandon. Brandon asked, you know, could an android be infected by a facehugger and morph a different alien-type species? Well, we've already seen something like that with not only Resurrection, where you saw the spliced together alien with a human skull kind of a thing, but in Alien versus Predator, they ended it with an alien facehugger getting a predator into a... They basically had a xenomorph come out that had dreadlocks. So it definitely makes sense for it to be, you know, influenced by the creature it's impregnated. That just makes sense that it would do that. My thing was, I found it weird that, and we had talked about, my husband and I had talked about this, and he said it's because, you know, David had already gotten to that point with the eggs, so he'd gotten it to advance and mutate to that point where it was a face hugger that was infecting you and not the weird black spot thing, air whatever from Lost. So my point was, it was weird that it took Billy Crudup's character, a human, to give birth to the xenomorph we all know. And I always thought the xenomorph that is in Alien, the original, looked very biomechanical, and that's a lot due to with Giger's style and everything. My thing was, it would have made more sense to me to give birth to that, but it's because he's a full synthetic, he's not a biosynthetic, yet his hair grew. The fuck? So I would have thought it would have been neat for the for the finale of this to somehow have David decide the final life that he could give would be to allow himself to be impregnated by an alien and have him be the one that creates the xenomorph we know. Because of that biomechanical look, it would be cool that a synthetic and a biological creature, that would be what would happen. But no, that's not what happened at all. The android made the aliens. They're not an ancient species. There's no reason that they should have been on that cave wall in Prometheus or that temple wall in Prometheus, because they weren't advanced to that point yet. It just was not, no, it just was, it was poop. It was poop. Alien Covenant is poop. Alien Convenience Playhouse is poop. And I'm sure I'm forgetting things. I've been ranting here for about a half an hour about this, but that was my reaction to Alien Covenant. I was very, very, very disappointed. And what really sucks, and I keep thinking about, is the fact that Fox went with this, and what could have been, and will never happen now, with Neil Blomkamp's version that would have brought back Sigourney Weaver, would have brought back Michael Biehn. We would have had Ripley in like alien armor taking on xenomorphs and just cool shit like that. But instead, we got the stupidest crew in space and an android with daddy issues that somehow has created an entire race of aliens, and he's the one that made them. It will never happen now. We'll never get that. We'll never get what could have been. So yeah, that's Alien Covenant. That's Alien Covenant. That's what happened. Not even Double Fassbender could save this movie. Not even Danny McBride, who I wanted the whole time to say big fat titties and blow something up. I wanted that so bad, but no, that didn't happen either. So yeah, that was Alien Covenant. You know what's sad is it wasn't the actors. The acting was great, good acting. I just, it was, where's, Cameron, stop messing around with the fucking Na'vi and come back and do an alien movie. Come on, man. Somebody out there, just grab James Cameron and tell him to stop messing with the blue giant people and get off of the Avatar kick and come back. Come back, James. Come back. Go bring Sigourney with you and do something with this. Fix this. Fix it, man. Fix it. Fix it. Alright, guys. So, if you guys have any questions, I'll stick around for a little bit. If you guys got any more questions, anything you want to ask, know about. I am, in fact, going to San Diego Comic-Con this year, even though it sounds like no one else is. Like, Nerdist is pulled out. They're not doing anything, although Hardwick's going to be running around. Nerd HQ is not going to be there this year. They're not doing the Enchantment Under the Sea thing, which is weird. EW is not going to have their shindig that they do, which is weird. So a lot of people are not participating, but I'm sure it will still be massive and huge and ridiculous and packed. I'm trying to think what else is going on really quickly. The next issue of Horror Hound, I am doing a lot of movie coverage in and should be awesome. Lot of Stephen King stuff. Working on. I did not see Life. I dodged that bullet, Brandon. I know people. Yeah, Chris, I have to be back on Night Watch again. I like Night Watch. It's fun being on there, even though Todd and I sometimes get into it about certain Marvel and DC properties. I dodged the bullet of the movie Life. My husband went and saw it, and it's another one of those, they're so stupid, the people are stupid movies, and I kind of figured out the entire film by the trailer again, and sure enough I was right, which wasn't long shot with that one. Yeah, but for the next issue of Horror Hound, I'm working on getting some stuff from it, Dark Tower. I have a ton of things from the new Annabelle sequel, the Annabelle 2 movie, because I got to go on the set for that, and that was fun. But I will be going to San Diego Comic-Con, so I hopefully will have some really cool stuff for you from that as well. I'm really, really hopeful that this guy back here, wait, there, no, move your hand, there, that guy, this guy, it's weird, I'm mirrored, will be there, being that this is his last season on Doctor Who, but he may actually be filming the Christmas special when I'm at Comic-Con, so he may not be at Comic-Con, but we'll hope, because it's his last time. Not that I'm sad about that or anything. So with that, guys, thank you for listening to me rant and rave about this horrible, sad thing that they did to really one of the coolest sci-fi franchises ever. And I'll be back next week, and hopefully we'll be doing a Fangirl Radio at some point too soon. And thank you guys for listening, and have a good night, have a good weekend. We've got Pirates of the Caribbean and Wonder Woman coming up, and so far so good with Wonder Woman. Sounds really good. I'm really excited about Pirates, because of course I am. But so far it's been good times with the movie season, except for this one. I really loved Logan, and that's coming out this week on DVD along with the Noir. Do you think being involved with Alien Effects Halloween coming up? Do you think being involved with Alien? Oh! Brandon confused me a little bit. He was asking if Danny McBride's involvement with Alien Effects Halloween, his involvement with that. No, I think it just means that Danny McBride's a huge horror fanboy, and I think that'll be. I don't think that's going to affect anything at all in regards to his involvement with the Halloween, the new Halloween movie that he's involved with. I think he'll still be doing it, as far as I know. I haven't heard anything different from that. So. I'm trying to think, was there anything else that I could share with you? Oh, by the way, if you haven't found it yet, oh, yeah, how's this look? Hi, I'm the mummy. This is a fantastic and a great issue of Horror Hound. I got to interview her, which was really cool. And if you don't recognize her, she is the chick with the scissor legs from Kingsman. She's also the French operative that Charlize Theron makes contact with in Atomic Blonde, and she's just amazing. And I also got to talk with the female co-star in it that plays, oh gosh, I'm blanking on her name. I'm a horrible person. That plays the archaeologist in this movie, opposite Tom Cruise, and she is great as well. So I got to talk to the women of The Mummy, which was awesome, and that was a great article to do. And I'm trying to think, what was the other one I did in here? Man, what was it? Westworld War, blah blah blah, Universal Monsters. I thought I read something else in here. Oh yeah, American Gods. Yeah, the American Gods article. Yeah, American Gods was great too because I got to talk to Brian Fuller, who is amazing, and Michael Green, and Ricky Whittle, who is fantastic, and you should read that because it's really fun to talk to him about Ian McShane. And he's just awesome. He's so excited about it, and it's so good. And by the way, I just got to see episodes 5 through 8. Oh my God, dudes, you're gonna freak. You're gonna freak out when you get to see all this cool shit in American Gods. Oh my God, it's so good. So yeah, that's it. That's all I got for you. That was a lot, and this was over an hour, and my throat is dying. So thank you, and keep watching this spot, I guess. And I'll be uploading this onto YouTube as well. If you're just joining in and didn't get to see this, I'll be uploading this on there. And by the way, this weekend on Doctor Who, just because I can say talk about Doctor Who really quick. This weekend on Doctor Who, we get to, I think we find out what's in the vault, and the Doctor meets the Pope. I think he gets his vision back, because if you didn't know, the Doctor's blind right now because they really want to twist the knife in our backs as Capaldi leaves the show. And the Master's back, Missy's back, and it looks really good, and it's going to be really weird. So guys, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this, and thank you for joining us, us, the collective we, and I'll be back next week to talk more, and we will see you later on Fangirl Live. Bye. Bye. Bye.